This month, we're going to be covering ethics and caregiving for the in-service training. Law versus ethics. So, our laws are things that are put into place by our legislator and our government agencies. These are the rules that are put in place as far as not stealing or assaulting other people or speeding even on the road. But ethical standards have to do with more how we act as a person. These are examples of these could be being honest or kind or respectful to another person. As a caregiver, we do have to follow the laws, but we also have to be mindful and have good ethical principles. When you're acting as a caregiver, you do have to follow the laws to avoid any legal actions against you. Caregivers should always be mindful of the rights of their clients as well as any laws that might pertain to them while they're practicing care. For example, when you're given a new client, you're always given a care plan. If you do not have your care plan or you've forgotten what is on it, you should always feel free to call the office and come and pick up another copy. But the agency can only protect you against things that you've been assigned on that care plan. So if you're doing things outside of your scope of care, then that could be a legal action against you if the client ends up getting hurt or something happens while you're working on the job. So you should always follow your care plan to protect the agency as well as protect yourself. Anytime that you are out in the home and you suspect any abuse, neglect, or exploitation, it is actually your job and it could be against the law for you not to report those actions because it is a law in the state of Texas and anywhere, usually in the United States, where you're practicing care to protect those that are vulnerable. And all of your clients are in vulnerable positions. So making sure that you're reporting those actions is part of the law, and following those can avoid any legal actions against you. You should always try to protect yourself when you're out practicing care and also protect any agency that you're working for. Ethical principles are different than our legal principles. We have to look at things that have more to do with ourselves. So as far as being honest, you always have to be honest with your client as well as the agency about what you can do and what you can't do. This starts at the interview process. You never want to oversell yourself because sometimes you might be out in the client's home, and if you've told someone that you have experience with that, you should be able to do the task that is assigned to you. You should also never do something in the client's home without permission. This goes back to following that care plan that you were given. So if the client asks you to do something that is not on that care plan, then you should always consult the agency before performing that task. You should also never, of course, falsify your time or reports. This has to do with clocking in and out when you're out at your client's home. Anytime that you're on the clock, you're expected to be working for that client. So you should never clock in and then go and do personal things for yourself or anything like that. You are definitely in a position of trust when you're a caregiver, and the client is trusting you as well as your agency. And we are billing those hours that you put down when you are clocking in and out. So it's definitely important for you as a caregiver to always be honest. The next thing that's on here as far as is respect. You do want to respect your client's culture, their religion, their beliefs, anything that is happening with their home and their family. You are entering their domain when you go in and provide your services. So you need to make sure that you're always respectful of the differences that might be between you and them. Sometimes those cultural differences can be difficult to navigate. So if you have questions about that, you can always call the office and ask. But the other thing you can also do is just sort of ask your client. Just make sure that you understand why they're doing the things that they are doing. If they ask you to do a certain thing a certain way, it might have something to do with how they've always done it and some sort of belief behind it. So just make sure that you're clear on that, so that you can understand and always respect the way that they want to live their life and how they want their care provided. Reliability. So one thing that is going back to just being respectful and honest with our clients is just being reliable. You want to make sure that you're there at the time that you were assigned to be there. You should always try to finish your shift, even if your client is being difficult. Keep in mind that clients are sick for different reasons. So sometimes it could be something mental as well as physical. But either way, it's going to be frustrating on that client. So you want to make sure that even if they are being difficult on that certain day, that you do your best to go ahead and complete the tasks that are on your list. Afterwards, if you need to call the agency because you don't feel like it's working out, then go ahead and make that call. We are available to you 24 hours a day. So you can go ahead and call us at that time. Never call in the presence of the client if something is going on. We do want to make sure that we talk to you fully about it, and we're not going to be able to if the client is present. That's kind of disrespectful to them to call in their home and talk, kind of about them. So just make sure that you find a place that you can talk that's quiet so you can kind of explain the situation and what is going on with their care. The other thing is that just common guidelines is that we never accept gifts or tips from the client. This is against the Medicaid rules anytime that we're billing a government agency. So if your client tries to give you something, just kindly decline that. And then always make sure that you are following that care plan. This will keep you in line and protect yourself as well as your clients while you're providing any care. So both you and your clients have rights. As far as your clients' rights, you always need to be respectful and considerate when you're providing care. They also have the right to not be abused in any way while their care is being provided to them. They also have the right to participate in their care plan. This is why we ask the clients at the beginning what they would like to happen with their care, as well as when they would like it done. If they're looking for something specific with the caregiver, all these things are about involving them with that care plan so they can be satisfied with the care and understand what's going on. They also always have the right to refuse treatment. So even if something is listed on that care plan, but they don't want it performed for whatever reason, they have the right to say no. We can't force them into taking treatment that they don't want. They also have a right to privacy. You're in this client's home, so it's not unusual for you to hear things that are going on with their personal situation, their medical situation, family situation, but they have the right to have their things kept private. So you should never discuss your client with your family or your friends or anybody outside of that home or even anybody inside of their home without their permission. We You need to think about this when we're talking about HIPAA. So if the client is, you find out some sort of information about the client because you're in the room when the doctor is in there. And then later on, a family member comes into the room and asks what is going on. You only need to offer what is needed to be provided, not anything else about their medical care outside of what the family member may need to know. So you can say, oh, your family member is feeling fine, but you can't give any specifics about their diagnosis or anything like that without your client's permission. Your client also has the right to file a complaint with the agency, and if they feel like the agency is not responding to their complaint, they can also go up the chain and file a complaint against the agency with the state. They have a right to request any copies of their record at any time. If they want to see the clock ins and outs on the caregiver, if they want a copy of their medical record, they can also request that with the agency, copies of that if they feel like that they need it. Caregivers also have their own rights. So, you as a caregiver, you have a right to file a complaint as well without retaliation. So, that means that if you file something with us because something is going on with a client or another employee, you don't have to worry about being fired or punished or anything like that. You can file it privately, and then someone in the office will be happy to record everything that you're saying and then respond to your complaint from there. You also have the right not to be abused emotionally, sexually, financially, or any sort of way while you're working. You also have the right to work in a safe environment. We have had to refuse clients before because caregivers have made complaints about the environment in the client's home. So if you feel like the environment is unsafe for any reason, you have a right to call and say, I can't work in this house because of whatever is going on out there. If it endangers you, we need to know about it. You have to report those things to us so that we can respond accordingly and also move you to a different situation that might work better for you. You have the right to provide input on any changes to the service plan. This doesn't mean the service plan will get changed, but you are out there way more than anyone else. So you know if your client needs something different or if the plan needs to be changed. So you can call and ask. I think, Mrs. So and so might need hours earlier in the morning because she's having issues getting breakfast. And then we can, work from there and talk to that client and find out if it would be better for them to change those hours. You also have the right to be informed of any complaints filed against you. If you've ever had a client that has called and filed a complaint, you might get a call from the office and they might say, so the client has called in and said this or that, and you get a chance to respond either in writing or verbally about what happened and what transpired while you were there so that you can add your input on any complaints about you. You also have the right, of course, to receive payment for your services performed within the scope of plan. So any hours that you've been assigned by the agency that you've signed up for with that care plan, you have the right to make sure that you get paid for those hours on your paycheck and that they're all correct. So, clients' rights versus caregivers' will. This is something that usually comes up a lot. It is the biggest thing, probably, that we end up having conflict with clients and caregivers. A lot of times, when you've been a caregiver, especially for a while, you feel like you know how to do your job. But you have to remember that every client is different, so they are going to want things done in a certain way in their own home. So clients have the right to choose, even if it doesn't align with how you feel like things should be done. If they decide that they only want their kitchen cleaned on Mondays and Wednesdays, and you're saying it's probably best for me to clean it, every single day, they still have the right to choose how they want their hours done, how they want those broken up into those assigned tasks. They also have the right of what we call self-determination. And this is the right to choose if events take place and if they decide if they want to have that certain medical thing or personal thing done to them. And these kind of continues on to what we were talking about. If you go in and the client has decided that she does not feel like taking a bath today, and it's the day to help her with her bath, she has the right to just say, I don't want to do that. You can, of course, always feel free to provide your input and tell the client that, I really think we should take care of this today because tomorrow you're not going to have time because you're going to be at dialysis. But if the client outright refuses, then they have the right to do that, and we shouldn't pressure them into, doing a task just because we feel like that it should be done. This is probably the biggest friction that we have a lot of times between clients and caregivers, and why things don't work out is the caregiver having a mindset of this is how it needs to be done and walking in with that instead of asking your client and involving them in the care so that they feel like that they're a part of the plan and working with the plan that and how they want it done. So we're going to go through a couple of scenarios before we close out this training. You arrive at your client's home where you have accepted an assignment for 5 days a week. Your client lives with her daughter who pays all the bills and buys anything that you need for your client in the home. When you're preparing lunch, you notice that there is limited options for your client to eat. Your client informs you that she's still hungry after finishing her lunch. So what is an appropriate course of action for you as a caregiver? Should you head to the store and buy your client some food or anything else that she might need? Should you call the agency and inform them of your concerns? The client is not in any immediate danger, so should you just leave a note for the daughter that the home needs additional groceries, or should you make a snack for your client and try not to get involved with any family issues? So I would not get into a habit of buying anything for your client. Once you do that, you're going to start a pattern. So that's definitely going to be a big conflict of interest. So I wouldn't buy anything as long as your client is safe and they have eaten something. Then I wouldn't rush to the store or anything like that. If there's no food in the house and your client is hungry, then I would definitely call at that point Adult Protective Services, but you do not need to ever go and purchase anything because once you do that, you're opening a door to be asked all the time to purchase things. Um, the last option, as far as making a small snack for your client, but not getting involved in family issues. So you can, of course, make the snack, but not getting involved is probably something that's only going to work for you for a little while. If the problem is still going on and it's persistent and there's no one refilling like the food in the house, then eventually you're going to have to get involved either by reporting it to the agency or talking to the daughter about, what is the procedure as far as ordering groceries or something like that. So eventually you're going to have to say something instead of, just trying to stay out of the drama. The other two options are definitely options always for you. You can always call us. So call us and let us know and inform us of what's going on and what your concerns are. And the client is not in any immediate danger as long as they have had something to eat and they're comfortable and they're safe. So you can definitely leave a note for that daughter and then let her know that the house is almost out of grocery and that the fridge and things need to be restocked. And then if she responds accordingly, then problem solved. If she doesn't, then you can, go up the chain and let us know again what is going on, and then also maybe report it to APS if you go into the house and then there's nothing to eat for your client. So, scenario two, you arrive at your client's home who has advanced dementia. Your client lives with his son who usually leaves for work after you arrive for your shift. Today, you arrive and the door to the home is open. You notice your client is wandering up the street alone with a pair of shorts and no shoes on his feet. After bringing your client safely back to the home, what should you do? So, your options are to report your concerns to Adult Protective Services or the Department of Family and Protective Services, inform the agency of your concerns, call the son and inform him that you found his father on the street. Do nothing. There's no reason to make an issue since your client was not hurt during this process. Always, again, you can always call us. So call us as soon as there's a problem. The number is available to you 24 hours a day. You definitely should report an incident like this to Adult Protective Services or the Department of Family and Protective Services. This is a serious issue if your client is in danger, even though he wasn't hurt during this particular day. If he's being put at risk by wandering up the street, you don't want to come back the next day and something has happened and then you fail to report. You should definitely, if you feel comfortable, calling that family member and informing him what happened. Maybe he has an excuse for that day, but either way, he has to be mindful if you're going to care for someone and you've taken the responsibility of caring for someone with a mental health impairment, then he has to be there, even if you're not there. He has to wait for you to get there so you can relieve him. So those kind of things need to be taken care of. Again, doing nothing is only going to go that far. If you do nothing and then the next day it happens again, but this time you can't find your client, and then when you're giving your report to APS, you say, actually, yesterday this happened. That's how you get involved with legal ramifications. So you want to make sure that you report as soon as something happens and not wait or delay your report. Scenario three. Your client's nurse has left a new medication box set up for the next week. The nurse has left clear written instructions on when medication should be taken, how much, and when, with or without food. 3 days into the new medication, your client informs you that he does not want to continue taking certain prescribed pills because they make him feel worse. What should you do? Advise your client against altering the medication plan and instead encourage him to call his doctor. Take out the pills your client doesn't want to take and put them back in the medication bottles. Mix the medication in with the client's food or drink. Inform the agency that your client is refusing certain medications. So the first option to advise your client against altering his medication plan and encourage him to call the doctor. So again, we spoke about this earlier. If your client is refusing to do something, they always have the right to refuse. But you, as a caregiver, can always provide advice. This is not pressured advice, but you can provide advice to them. So you can say, I really think you should follow the medications that the doctor has set up. And then also tell them, if you're not feeling well when you're taking these medications, maybe the doctor can prescribe you something different. So encourage them to call the doctor and discuss it with them, not to alter the plan. But if they decide to alter the plan, they do have the right to do that as a person. The last option, informing the agency. Again, always option. Call us and let us know, hey, I'm following the plan, but the client doesn't want to follow the plan. And we will just document that on the client's record. But you can always call us and let us know if you need to voice any concerns. The other two options, usually when a nurse comes out and puts in a med box in the home, if the client decides that they're going to take certain pills, but not all of them, you should never put things back in the box or mess up their organization. So just leave it where it is if they decide not to take it. And then when the nurse comes and they are doing their assessment, they'll realize that the client stopped taking certain meds 3 days ago. And that might be why they're suffering from some of the symptoms that they are. Or they will be asking the client the questions that he may not have called the doctor about. Why didn't you take this pink pill? And then the patient will respond with the reasons why they stopped taking it. So that will start the dialogue that you want to start with that client as far as why they're not taking certain meds. But the only way the nurse will know that is if you follow the instructions exactly. And if they don't take the med, leave it exactly in the spot so they can know which ones were taken and which ones aren't. Anytime you're dealing with medications, you as a caregiver can't make any decisions. The only people that can make decisions are those medical professionals as well as that client as about what they're going to take and what they're going to put into their body. So anything they don't take, just leave it in the same spot, give them the pills they're going to take, and then put everything else back exactly where it was. You should never ever give your client something that they say they don't want. Mixing medications is illegal, and you should never put something into your client's food or drink or anything like that and try to trick them. It's definitely a one of those things that falls over into both. It's a legal problem, and it is also a moral problem because you've tricked your client, and ethically now you've broken that trust and that honesty that you've had with them. And if when they find out, they're probably going to terminate you, and I would as well. So just make sure that you never do that. You need to have an open communication with your client so that they trust you being in their home and also dealing with important and sensitive things like their medication. So that is the end of the training for ethics. Make sure you take the quiz. You have to take the quiz to get credit. Do both parts of the training, and once you have completed the quiz and watch this video, you will it will email us and let us know that you have completed it so that we can pay you for your training. If you have any concerns or you have any questions about this training or any errors that you notice that you need to report to us, make sure you call 817-457-8324 or email us at hr@exceptionalhc.net. Thank you so much.